welcome to Stat Center, brought to you by the Michelson 20NN Foundation. I'm your host, Robert Adu of GayMath.org. There is no question we live in a society obsessed with snapshot information. We crave averages of all sorts of phenomena, and sports is no exception. In basketball, for instance, if we were to describe the number of points a player or team scores over an entire season, it would be quite challenging to say the least. That's because we have to look through the point tallies from every single game. Fortunately, we have ways of using single numbers to help us keep track of and interpret this data. Snapshot numbers that are representative of all the numbers in a set. With me tonight to discuss the importance of these snapshot numbers is none other than Cleveland Cavalier power forward, four-time NBA MVP, LeBron James. LeBron, it's good to hear from you.
Thanks for having me, Robert.
Now, LeBron, most wouldn't know this about you, but you're something of an averages wizard.
Ain't nothing average about my game.
No, not averages like mediocre. Averages as in arithmetic mean.
Allow me to dazzle you, Robert, with this monotone delivery of mine. Calculating point averages is how I roll. It's the most efficient way of keeping track of how players generally score over a season of basketball. Finding a seasonal point average gives us a number that all the point totals from the season are grouped around. For instance, in the most recent season, I averaged
LeBron, for our viewers at home who may be unfamiliar with averages, can you first explain how you go about calculating them?
Piece of cake. Simply add up all the numbers in each set and divide by the number of data points. So for this past NBA season, we add up all my point totals of each game, divide by the total number of games in the season, and you arrive at my season average, 25.3 points per game. That's a lot of points.
Yes, it is. Now, we know you're actually not scoring exactly 25.3 points in a game. So how does that number work?
25.3 points, aside from being an impressive number, is incredibly useful because it gives us an idea of what I typically score in any given game.
Okay, in other words,
So what that means, you guys, see how he didn't score 25 points every time. And the mean or the average, it's like your grades. It's like your grades, right? So like, let's say you made an 80 on your report card. Does that mean that you made an 80 on every single assignment? No, that means you made 100 sometimes, you made 60 sometimes, but it all averages out. So on average, you were a B student. Does that make sense? Okay.
your mean of 25.3 points per game is the best representative snapshot of your nightly point totals for that particular season.
Now you're speaking my language. This is why if you look at my seasonal point average, there's no question I should have won the NBA's Most Valuable Player award that year. I mean, come on. When you compare my average to the MVP, Steph Curry, you can see that I outdid him by more than a whole point per game. What's up with that?
I'm happy you asked because we've just gotten word from our producers that Stephen Curry is also on the line. Steph, hello, you're on Stat Center.
Hi, Robert. LeBron, walk this back for me, okay? You may have the high seasonal point average, but I know you know averages aren't always the best way of finding the track of data.
Steph, you're of course talking about the median and the mode.
What else would I be talking about, Robert?
Okay.
The median would be the middlemost number in the data set after putting all the numbers in increasing order. Take the total points of my NBA champion Golden State Warriors, who gave LeBron's Cavaliers a beating. If we rearrange the total points per player in increasing order, we see Golden State's median is 461 points. Now, if we do the same for Cleveland, we find their season median was only 319 points. Based on these points, it's a no-brainer who the better team was.
Now, hold on.
LeBron, he makes a good point there. The median can be a more accurate way of describing the center of data, especially when we're dealing with teams with players like you who score much higher than your teammates.
I mean, how could the Cavs' overall scoring average be a good indicator of their team's performance when you've got LeBron shooting a number high?
You scored pretty high yourself, Steph.
You're right, I do. So, for both Cleveland and Golden State, the player's median score is probably more useful because it's not affected as greatly by one or two extremely high or low values.
That's all well and good.
Okay, so I just want to point this out. This would be the same thing, like if I wanted to tell you, maybe our average on a test or a quiz. If I put our class average up and we had a class average of like 67, do you think that most students in our classroom right now made in the 60s or 70s? No, it would probably be skewed, meaning one person maybe either got a 0, didn't do it, or maybe they did really, really poorly, you see what I'm saying? So that's the same thing as this data with LeBron, and then because if this, like 1900 is so much higher, it's skewing the whole thing too high. So the mean may not be the best thing to talk about. It might be better to do the median. Does that make sense? Kinda? We'll come back.
Good, Steph. But I want to shift gears here and talk a little bit about the mode.
Yes, mode being the number that occurs most frequently in a data set.
Mode as in consistency. Mode as in 40 points a game, baby. Let's go for our point totals for the NBA Finals, if we could. As you can see, there's a peak surrounding my 40-point performance. Why? Because I scored 40 points in 2 of the 6 games we played. Preach! Now, I'm no sports analyst. I'll leave that to professionals. Well, Robert, I think you can argue that because I hit 40 points in 2 of the 6 games, my playing was more consistent than Stephens, who didn't manage to repeat a point total during the finals.
Which is why mode would not be the most effective way of comparing our performances in the finals.
All I know is I averaged more points per game than you did.
All I
You
know
can take
is
your-
Golden State NBA champion.
Don't you dare talk about my mode now.
Don't matter.
Oh, who averaged more points than you tonight? I don't need to listen to this clown. I'm
Ladies and gentlemen,
you the Jets.
that's all the time we have for tonight. Thank you for calling in to Stat Center. Join us tomorrow night as we talk spread with Sir Charles Barkley. Talk spread with Charles Barkley. In the meantime, this is Robert Dukes. Keep it one standard deviation ahead of the curve, sports fans.
Okay, so tomorrow we're going to be talking about the range, okay? So now if you'll turn to your paper that you picked up in the back, we're going to go through these together, guided notes. Now this is our very first time to take notes together, so it's important for you to make sure you know what you're doing and what I expect. What I expect is if I'm writing it down, it must be important. So if I'm writing it down, what? You should be writing it down as well, okay? So, example 1, find the mean, median, mode, and the range. Don't do that today, you don't need to mark it out, but we're going to do that tomorrow. Of this data set. Minutes practicing the piano, okay? Step 1, add, for the mean, average. This is like your grades. This is like your grades, okay? One way that you can try to remember that word, the mean, is who gives you your grades? Your mean old teacher. Got it? Your mean old teacher gives you your grades. That's the average. Okay, that'll help you remember. Okay? So first we need to add all of our values. Guys, can we add them looking like this? What should we do first with them? Should we write them, stack them? When we add, absolutely. So let's just copy them down. If I'm writing, you're writing. Okay. Anybody have a good method for adding a long string of numbers? Where's a good place to start? Does anyone have a good method in the ones place? Nobody? You're just gonna start from the top and just add straight down? Tell me. Well, yeah, we don't need the zeros. But what else? What do you look for next? Do you generally just start adding from the top? Nobody? Wow. All the other classes were able to tell me they look for tens first. What I mean is 7 and 3 make a 10, right? Are there any more that make a 10? 6 and 4, very good. So already I have 20. I don't have any other ways that I can make 10, but I have 2 8s. What's 2 8s? 16 on top of the 20 I already have. 36, very good, plus 6. 42. Now, when we get to the tens place, I don't really see any tens, so we can just, well, you could, you're right, 4, 4, 2 is what you're gonna say. So, or you can take all the 4s, there's 3 4s, which is 12, and then I do my 2s. 14, 16, 18, 20, and all that's left of my 3s, 23, 26. Whatever way you add, just add, okay? But here's where kids are making a lot of mistakes today, is that they're making an error in their addition, okay? So that was step 1. Step 2, divide by the amount of data values that you have. What does that mean? Yeah, how many numbers do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we're gonna do 262 divided by 8. All right? For the first day of math, we sure are diving deep, aren't we? 8 goes into 26. How many times? 4. 3. Because 3 times 8 is 20, 24. I just didn't hear anybody say that. All right. Then we're going to bring down this 2. 8 goes into 22. How many times? Just 2. 2 times 8. 16. And subtract to get 6. Now, in elementary school, you might have said remainder 6, but we're not, because we're now in middle school. What can we do now? Close. What do you need to do before that? Yes, we need a decimal, because that is the total number of whole numbers we're dealing with, and then after the decimal, add a 0. I can add as many zeros as I want back here, really, until I have to stop, okay? I add a 0, I bring it down. Now, 8 goes into 60. Cobwebs, cobwebs. I see them flying off your brains right now. How many times is 8 going to 60? 7. Because 7 times 8 is 56. Woo, look at all those cobwebs. My goodness. So now what? I need to add another 0 because I'm not done. Now, 8 goes into 40 5 times. Now, I was able to finish, okay? So 32.75. So the mean of the data is 32.75. So that means she spends on average about 33 minutes a day. Some days you can see she was higher, some days you can see she was lower. But on average, about 33. Any questions on the mean? Okay, now let's do the median. First, has anybody seen this word or heard this word somewhere else besides school, besides math class? Tell me. Okay, anywhere else? How about when you're driving or been in a car? Have you ever seen a median? What's that? You know? You're shaking your head yes, you know? Kind of. In the front of the school, in the middle of the road, there's like this concrete thing and there's grass growing in the middle of it. That's the median. It separates the traffic going like this way from this way. Yeah, that's called a median. Why is it called a median? Because it's in the middle. It's in the middle of it. Okay? So there are steps to this though. Step 1, and this is super important. You must write them in order from least to greatest. Okay? Okay, so first let's go ahead and write them in order from least to greatest. So looking at our data set, what is the least? 24. And I'm going to mark it out. Why did I do that? Yeah, so I don't get them confused. What's next? 26, then what? 28, then what? Ooh, there's another 28. Do I need to write it again? Yes, I sure do. Now what? 36, then what? 27, then what? 40, and then 43. 40, and then 43. And then one more additional step here that it doesn't say is I go back and do this. Why am I doing that? Yeah, I wanna make sure I got them all, because if I'm trying to find the middle of 8 numbers versus finding the middle of 20 numbers, very different. Okay, now that they're in order, number 2 says to cross off the lowest and the highest until you reach the middle. Here we go. Cross, 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 cross. So I didn't get one value that was right in the middle this time. So it says, if there are 2 values left at the end, find the mean of the 2 values. That means we want to find the average of those 2 values. And we just learned from the previous directions to find the mean, we're going to add. So 28 plus 36 would be what? 64. Guys, I need to hear from more than one person, please. And we're going to divide by 2 because there were 2 values. So 64 divided by 2 would be 32. Good job. Come on, be brave. So the median was 32. That means the number right here between those two is 32. Okay? Questions on the median? Okay? The last one is the hardest one of all. The hardest one of all. It says write them in order from least to greatest. We already did that. And actually, maybe. You know, I don't even do that step. I'm gonna be honest with you. If they just ask me the node, I can look at it without putting it in order. And then 2, which one occurs most often? Meaning, which one is there the most often? 28. Was that really the hardest one? Oh, no, I'm kidding you. I was kidding you. There was no math to even do, guys. That was the easiest, okay? And here's your clue. Mode, most. The mode appears the most often. That's how you can remember that. Okay? Any questions? Now is a great time. Yes, ma'am. Okay, here's what I want you to do. With a partner, or this is someone at your table, or with a group of 3, just all 3 of you at your table, I want you to work number 1. So if you have the next page, you'll see number 1. Number 1 looks exactly like what we just did. Okay? Go to the next page and find number 5. Number 5 is just a bar graph. So the only difference is you're going to be getting the numbers off of the bar graph. Is that really any harder? No, it's just a different way to look at the numbers. Okay? Any questions about what you're supposed to do right now? Just number 1 and 5 with your group. If you're watching the video at home, pause it and then turn it back on when you're ready to check. Okay, let's go over the answers. So on number 1, you should have gotten that the sum was 158, and when you divided by 10, you got 15.8. Thumbs up if you got 15.8. Excellent. Okay, the median for number 1, there were 2 14s. Did you have to do 14 plus 14 and then divide by 2? No, right? Because then you'd be right back where you started. So it's just 14, and then the mode was 14. Thumbs up if you got all 3 on number 1 correct. Excellent. Okay, let's go to number 5. Here's number 5. The data just came off of the graph. Your sum should have been 151. If you didn't finish, I'd be writing this in now. Okay, and now I want to do the division that went with that one, because that one was kind of hard. 151 divided by 6. 15 divided by 6 is what? Hello? 15 divided by 6 is 2, because 2 times 6 is 12, right? And that's subtracting at 3. Then what? Okay, 6 goes into 31 5 times. 5 times 6 is 30. And now I'm out of space, so I need to add a decimal, and a 0. Bring it down. 6 goes into 10 1 time, because 1 times 6 is 6. Now what? Add another 0. So 6 goes into 40 6 times, because 6 times 6 is 36. And then what happened? That's right. Because this number is the same as the one we just had, that means it's going to keep going and going and going with 6. So remember, you could either do that at the end, but more preferable is to put the line over that 6, which means the 6 keeps repeating. It's like what I was talking about over here. Okay? The median on number 5 was 22 and 28, so when you add them, you get 50 divided by 2 is 25. And then there was no mode because there wasn't one repeating. Okay? Aside from some of you not finishing, how did you do? Okay? Okay, you ready to try one all by yourself? I know you can. Okay, I want you to look back on the first page at number 3. Number 3. So go back a page, and I want you to try this one all by yourself. Give you a couple minutes, okay? If you're at home, pause the video. To go over the answers. For the mean, you should have gotten the sum of 276 divided by 10 is 27.6. The median, once you put them in order, 26 and 28 are your 2 middle numbers, so the middle number of that is 27, and there was no mode. There was no mode, okay? We're just about out of time, guys. Your homework is to do the evens. So number 2, 4, and 6, we skipped those. Mean, median, mode for number 2, 4, and 6. Now let's go IDR start back up. When you're done tonight with your homework, what are you supposed to do with it? Nope. 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 Say again. Now, you're close because you did say the word canvas. Take a picture. What's on canvas that I told you guys? There it is. Check it with the key on canvas. Remember, the answers are there. You need to check it. That way you come in tomorrow with questions ready to go, okay? You're not submitting it. You're checking it because all the answers are there. Bring it tomorrow. Listen, for now,